I'm Lilarhixiel. Welcome to my channel if you've never been here before, or welcome back if you have. It's been about 6 weeks since I did an Ascension Star Gate video, and oddly enough, it was 6 weeks the last time I did the video. So it seems that I'm kind of working each step within about 6 weeks. But yeah, I just kind of channeled some stuff today. It just sort of jumped in while I was just sitting in bed and just started writing stuff down on my phone. And so I thought I would share what came through about Ascension Star Gate 33, about the first 2 steps and then the third one, which I'm in right now. So I've written down some stuff, which is not what I usually do. I usually channel stuff, but this is sort of like a wrap up of what's been going on, and things that you might start to experience. And look, I think that there's actually a number of stargates, like a star gate, not like Stargate, one word. So I think there's actually probably a few in the ascension process. And I feel that likely we don't experience them all. It depends on what is needed for us, for our ascension journey. So this is just mine, you know. I've watched other videos of people going through it in a very physical way, you know, like detoxing out of their skin, but like metals and like their skin's turning shiny, and it's kind of far out stuff, but I fully believe it. You know, everyone just experiences things differently. For me, there's a lot of astral stuff going on. You know, people may or may not have heard of gangstalking, which is when you start to talk about ascension and some of the darker stuff that kind of precipitates this process, you know, bringing out all of the dark secrets that are kept in society that people keep their head in the sand about and they don't even want to know, like, and to try and process it when you've never heard it before is kind of hard. So and it is a part of this process that I've been going through. But yeah, so everyone's journey is different. For me, so just a brief thing about what gangstalking is. So when you start to talk about the darker things that are going on in the world and then how it relates to ascension and why ascension is happening, and everything's interconnected, or you know, one thing's happening because of another, to counteract it, to balance it. You know, the light and darkness is at war. So gangstalking is when you start to talk about all this sort of stuff, and I'll include some links if you're more interested about it, but it's kind of hard to explain. There are other people that talk about it, like Aluna Ash. I think it's Aluna Ash 9D. And yeah, like her channel's very interesting, and she channels a lot of really far out there information that my brain is just starting to try and integrate and understand, let alone bringing through that kind of information. So gangstalking is when it's like, it's kind of like when, because personally I see a lot of synchronistic numbers and sequences and patterns and all that sort of thing, and that's one of my cues that, you know, you're going in the right direction and it's all going to be okay. And with gangstalking, it's when you're kind of being harassed by collective energy, because you're starting to dredge up all this stuff that there are I call them, as Amanda Ellis on YouTube so aptly said, the powers that were. Like, it's no more. So the powers that were, you know, energies in this world that don't want ascension to come about. They don't want the truth to be exposed. They don't want people to start to wake up and realize the reality that we're actually living in, not the false reality that they've created. And there's so much on this, like, you know, you can go research David Icke or Sean Atwood on YouTube. they've both got books and all sorts of stuff. So there's plenty of information for you to research for yourself. But yeah, so the gang stalking, it's kind of energetic. I mean, everything's energetic, but it manifests more in the physical. So it's kind of ridiculous, but there's so many people talking about it happening to them. And these aren't people that are like, it's not your quote unquote crazy people that you would expect to see talking about stuff that kind of blows your mind. It's people who are very grounded and calm, and they're not overly emotional, nothing like that. They're not saying the world's gonna end and like preaching, and it's not like that. You know, these are very level-headed, sane people who feel like they're going crazy because something crazy is happening to them. But in a sense, it's more so happening for them because it's opening them up and showing them the reality of what's going on, because they have witnessed and start to understand what's actually going on, and then they start to talk about it. And because we're so hooked in and can be listened to on all our devices, you know, people know what's going on. Like, go look for it. Don't take my word for it. Like, I will never say that. I will never be like, you know, believe me, this is all happening, the sky's falling. Well, the sky's not falling. But it's a convoluted world that we live in, more so than what most people can comprehend. Most people don't have the capacity, and that's not because they're a lesser human being. It's because you can't learn these things until you're ready. So for me, I've got a very rambunctious dog in here right now. What? Are you okay? We'll just let her go. So yeah, gang stalking is people have reported all sorts of things, whether it's people following them or when you walk into a room, and a lot of the time, because people aren't consciously aware of the world that they actually live in, and they're not consciously aware of energies and how you can be influenced even if you don't feel it. Like, energies can just snap in and snap out of your energy field and influence you in ways that you would never usually behave if there wasn't some other energy at play. So, and once again, I'm like, I shouldn't be talking about this. I'm going to sound like a crazy person. And then I look at the camera and it says 7:44 and I'm like, it's fine, whatever. If people don't want to get it or people think I'm crazy, that's fine. Like, you can go and research all of this for yourself. Like, whatever. There's plenty of people talking about it. So a lot of people have experienced walking into a room and people turning to look at them, and they're just like you and me, they're just average people, and heads just sort of turn, and it's like, you know, just getting bad energy from people, and they're focused, it's the focused, you're being focused on, and people wouldn't even notice that it's happening to them. That they're like looking at someone like they're, you know. The thing is, when you are of a high vibration and you're putting out a lot of energy and people aren't at the same level as you, it can be misconstrued as something negative. Like, if you were to meet an extraterrestrial who, they are highly evolved, and their energy, their heightened, evolved energy would trigger us to feel like they're a threat. But what it's actually doing is dredging up all our crap to be transmuted, because that's how high their energy is. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And yes, you know, of course there are nefarious extraterrestrials, but we won't go into that. Like, it's just the example that when you are of a higher energy, it's not always well received. But it's not just the energetic manipulation of energy, which is people sometimes. It's also people get multiple helicopters just hovering over their house. They're like, I've never been to prison. I've never been charged with anything. There are police pulling into their drive and then turning around and leaving, like all the time, especially when they start to talk about this kind of stuff. or if they upload something that's on this subject. So yeah, it's called gang stalking, and it's very real for a lot of people. And these aren't people who are extremists in any way or have a history of mental health. It's nothing like that. And there's enough people talking about it that, you know, it might not be a reality in your reality, in the reality in which you live and create with your own brain. But it is a reality for other people. And I think the world that we live in is so rigid and so like mental, and this is how it is, and it's not how it is. It's fake. The real stuff that's going on would blow your mind. And, you know, a lot of people might think, oh, David Icke, like, he's just crazy. But a lot of the things that he's said about specific people has come true. Like, he's heard these things and written about them. And so it's all out there. And he wrote about these things, you know, years or decades before it ever came out for public attention. So yeah, it's very interesting. And there's a lot to be read about it, and we'll include some links down below of some videos that if it doesn't resonate with you and it doesn't understand, you can't understand it, or it scares you, just don't watch it. Like, you're not ready, or it's just not meant for you. That's totally fine. So getting to the point, what I've been experiencing is what I'm going to call astral gangstalking. So I've seen a lot of dark energies. I'm not going to say entities, because then it just gives them power, and they really don't have any, like, you know, the light and darkness is at war right now, but the light's winning. So I've seen, there's been like some dark things waiting for me, like, and it's energetic. Like, you can't, like, a person who didn't have any psychic ability couldn't just see these little kind of like gargoyle type things with wings, like, sitting along the side of the road as you're driving home. And I'm like, nah, fuck off. Like, get the fuck out of my hood. I don't want to know about you. Don't even try to attach to me. It's not going to fucking work. Like, get the fuck out of here. And just basically blasting them with light and gold energy, and then they're gone. They're like, oh, well, she's not an easy target. Let's go. Or like just sitting in my room with my dogs eating, and like a face comes right into my face. Not a nice face, not, you know, not threatening me, just kind of trying to scare me, coming in and then just leaving. That happened last week. It was like a very white, pale skin, and it was really like, for a couple of seconds, it was really tangible, and then it just sort of dissipated and it was gone. Very white skin, white glowing eyes, sharp teeth, and just like not a nice energy at all. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, I'm going crazy. Except, like, I don't feel like I'm going crazy. I feel fine. You know, Ascension's not easy, and it does make you feel a bit, like, off kilter sometimes, and you're working through anxiety or fear or healing past traumas and things. But, you know, like, I'm not saying the end is nigh, or, like, I don't know, like, I'm not crazy, and there are plenty of other people talking about this stuff. So it's like, we kind of back each other up, even though our experiences are a little bit different, because we're human, and that's just how life is. We all express and experience differently. So yeah, it's really different for everyone. And, you know, I see someone going through it in a very physical way, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's not happening to me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And then I'm like, oh, no, like, look, you know, it's either that's not what's needed for me, or, you know, that part is just not going to happen for me. I don't know what it is yet. But I see other people going through it in a very physical way, and I'm like, wow, like, I've noticed a lot more sirens in my neighborhood than I ever have before. I've lived here for like 18 plus years. Well, yeah, longer than that, because I've lived in this area for a long time, but this specific house for like 18 years. But I think that just the general increase in emergency services being around, it's kind of everywhere, because I think a lot of people are ascending, but they don't know what it is, and they're not necessarily coping, or they'll get symptoms that they're like, what is this? And it's not actually a health issue, because usually when you get ascension symptoms, and I'll have to, you can just Google it. Just Google ascension symptoms or ascension flu. That's what they call it. It's not like a full-blown flu. You just feel a little bit off, like maybe you're coming down with something, but you don't fully come down with anything. So yeah, this happens quite a lot. And I think it's happening to a lot of people that have no concept of what's happening to them. Not everyone who is ascending actually knows what's happening, and that's okay. They will eventually. But yeah, so, and for some people it can kind of throw them into chaos, because it's like they think that they are going crazy and they're not. So it can manifest in different ways, or, they'll have physical symptoms and then they start feeling really anxious and they're like, what's going on? I'm going crazy. And the veil between our worlds is coming down. So people are starting to sense and see and experience more things, even if they're still very in their head and still very in 3D consciousness, even though the veil's dropping and they're starting to see more 4D, 5D things in their environment. And they're like, what the fuck? Like, does that tree have an aura? Like, or am I on drugs? Like, what is going on? That has happened to me also. I was like very in 5D consciousness this one day, and it hasn't been like this strong again. So I don't know what I did or what was going on, but hopefully I'll get back to that. But it was amazing. Like, I was driving down the street and I was like in just like this perfect energy. And I looked at this tree, and I drive past this tree like whenever I go food shopping. But it was so green, and it had like this green and yellow aura, and I was like, oh, wow, it's so beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a crazy trip. But then it was gone, and I was like, oh, not crazy, because now it's the 3D world again, or things like, you're standing in line to pay for something and people just keep walking in front of you because they don't fucking see you. It's crazy. And then you get annoyed with them because you're like, oh my God, why can't you see me? And then they see you because you've dropped back down to 3D consciousness and they can see you again. Like, and I probably sound mental, but honestly, I've experienced these things, and lots of other people are as well. But not everyone's coping with it. This is the thing. People think they are going crazy. They're not going crazy. I'm a large woman, okay? Like, you can't ignore all of this, all right? So, yeah, like, I'm not being ignored. They literally can't see me. Like, they just step around you, step in front of you. Like, they don't acknowledge you. They don't even look at you like, oh, are you next? And in Australia, this is a big thing. You'll look at someone and be like, oh, are you going next? Because it's like a courtesy, polite thing. Everyone does it. But they don't do it. They just step in front of me because they do not see me. It's cool, and it kind of boggles your mind. And then you get annoyed because you're like, oh my God, 3 fucking people have walked in front of me now. And I just want to get my shopping, or I want to get my hot chips for dinner and just go home. So you get annoyed, and then you drop back down to their level, and then they see you and they're, oh, do you want to go next? It's like, oh, this is insane. But it's like the world is crazy. The world that we're living in is far more complex than what a lot of people can comprehend. So basically, you're not going crazy after like that little rant. But yeah, it's just like a couple of things that I haven't really spoke about because I was just like, oh, I'm going to sound crazy. But, I'm kind of coming to a point now where I just don't care. I'm like, if people want to think I'm crazy, that's fine. Because at the end of the day, my energy's going to a much better place. I know I'm going to fully heal my health with this journey, and that my health actually was a gift. Part karmic contract, part potential of how it was going to manifest, and I'm really grateful for it. But it is coming to an end, and I will fully recover. So it's 20 minutes already. I'm hoping by 30 minutes I'll be done. So I'm just going to read, after going through all of that, it's just sort of like an Ascension plus Ascension Star Gate 33 recap and stuff that I've gone through. So yeah, on Ascension Star Gate 33, when it was first opening, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was happening. So I'm just going to read what I've written, because I called in my higher self to like channel through me for what I needed to say and sort of organise, not just for other people, but for myself as well. So the first is the opening. A feeling of it's crunch time. If you don't open your eyes, it will be too late. If you're open, it's a time of great learning. It can be a time full of anxiety and fear, because learning is hard, especially when it shatters the reality that you thought you understood. So like the first part, like January this year, I was just like, I had this overwhelming feeling that like I wasn't getting it, and that if I didn't get it and I didn't snap out of it, that something bad was going to happen. And I didn't know what that bad thing was. I thought it kind of felt like I'm going to miss a boat, really. You know, like I felt like I was going to miss the train or whatever it is. Like I just felt like something's really wrong here. I need to start putting the feelers out and figure out what's going on. And I think I was just, and I had this, the opening is also like illumination, bringing light and knowledge to things that you didn't understand before. And so I was naturally coming across all the things that I needed to learn to start my journey. And a lot of it was really scary, because when you start to open your mind to the possibilities of a reality that you've never even considered possible, it's a shock to your brain. David Icke just posted a video. It was just 3 days ago now. And I was like, oh God, I wish I'd watched this video in January. It would have really settled me, and I would have been like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. And, you know, when he found out about the reality of this world and about a lot of the darker things that sort of govern it, I suppose, you know, the powers that were, he said that he found all of this stuff out and just like devoured information. And then for 3 months, he just was like done, like just completely drained, and had to integrate. And yeah, just he had a really tough 3 months after that. But he said once he got through that, it was completely different. And he was like, okay, I'm good now. But yeah, he's very wise, and I will link that video in the description box, because it's a really good video. It's very it's quite grounded and not it doesn't invoke fear in you. Just you kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, like that's what I'm experiencing, or that's what I experienced however many months ago, or years even. You know, everyone, the Ascension Star Gate 33, I saw it as like this golden wedge, like, that goes out. And you just sort of start a little bit, and then it tapers and gets bigger and bigger. And, yeah, so I think that because it's like that sort of wedge shape, that's sort of the energy that I saw for Ascension Star Gate 33. And I saw that it's, I mean, there's infinite possibilities, really. You could speed through that, or you could go really slowly. So it could take some people years, it could take some people months. if you're a little kid and you're very in tune and you get it, and a lot of the kids now in a previous video, and I've actually, since I did that video, I've seen someone saying, I can't remember who it was. I'll try and find it. I'll try and remember and try and find it, and I'll put it in the comments. But someone was saying that the kids now, which I've said in one of my, I think it's 144, one of the 144 videos, that the kids now are coming in and the veil's it's not making them forget anymore. They know their purpose. They're like full steam ahead. And you can't tell them that this stuff isn't real, because they know that it is. It's just us that needs to catch up. It's the older ones that need to catch up. So yeah, like it is a shock to the system, and it can invoke a lot of anxiety and fear, because like your brain can only comprehend the world that you know and understand. And if you try and add something new to that, your brain's got to really do some recalibrating. And it is scary. Like, they say that it's traumatic for a brain to even go to a different culture. Like if you're to leave your home and go to a completely different country, different culture, especially if it's different language and everything as well, it's actually traumatic for your brain to try and learn that much complex information. And so this is kind of what it's like, because we are going to a different world. You know, it's still Earth, but our perception and the reality of it is going to be so fundamentally different that it's really hard to acknowledge what is, so that we can bring all that darkness up and flush it out, and replace it with light and no fear. When I was studying with my master teacher, who I learned all sorts of things with, all different modalities and workshops and things, she or someone else said that fear is false emotion appearing real. And I'm like, I've never forgotten that, because it just sounds true. So yeah, like that initial part is a shock to the system, and everyone will integrate the information that they learn in that period, because it's like you have this thirst to learn, like you have to devour this information, but it can fuck you up a bit. And if you do start to get into that fear-based stuff, I would suggest you go from the really logical, this is real, this is the evidence, here's the paperwork, this is people have been talking about this since this time, and then all these things that they said would happen have happened, and you're like, oh, like it blows your mind. So if you go through that and you're starting to freak out and go into fear and anxiety and like, holy fuck, oh my God, the world is so messed up, and you're freaking out, I don't want you to freak out. That's why I'm making this video. It's just a part of the process. And all they always say to me is stay in the light. So with what you say, what you do, how you feel, and the first few lessons are about learning these things and pulling yourself out of it. So, which brings me to my second point. So the first part is all about learning and opening yourself, your mind, and starting to learn and integrate new knowledge of the reality. So the second part is the mirror. And your Ascension Star Gate 33 might not necessarily happen in the same order, because our brains and our comprehensions all work differently. So you might need to sort emotional stuff first, or mental stuff first, or physical stuff first, before you can handle this kind of information. Everyone's different. This is just the order they've gone in for me. So the second is the mirror, which is having your traumas reflected to you and frequently being triggered more than normal. To sort these triggers and traumas, you can experience recurring thoughts and memories replaying. It's going over things. And again, there's a feeling of this angst and fear. And the best thing that I learned is to kind of step away and observe it. It's not to completely dissociate from it, but it's just to not get bogged down in it, and because you can't live there, that's the past anyway. You know, if you're sorting traumas and triggers, it's old stuff. And we need to start looking at it and going, you know, you don't need to hurt me anymore. I'm observing you. I acknowledge you, you know, and like thank yourself for getting through that situation or trigger or whatever it is. But yeah, it's just, you want to observe it because it is the past and you can't live there. So you don't want to sink into it and really go deep. You don't have to do that anymore. I just really don't think it's necessary. So yeah, it's really about learning to see whether it's dramatic stuff from your past or your present that's in your face, triggering you or bringing up old traumas. It's time to start distancing ourselves from that in a way that it's like, you do need to sort it, but at the same time, sometimes it's just understanding why something happened or how it helped you and acknowledging it, but then not letting yourself get dragged into it emotionally or energetically. Don't invest yourself in that. Because the more you invest yourself in it, like, yes, okay, some people might need to really go deep and cry and release. I've done all of that. It's just that sort of anxious mind stuff where you keep replaying stuff in your head. And I was like, no, like, enough of this. And I came across someone, I think it was Aaron Doherty on YouTube, and he was saying that these things might come up and that when they do, it's best to just observe it and not be emotionally dragged back to that place. And I thought, well, I don't know if that will work, because in my mind I was still thinking, but I have to like sort it, I have to do something about it. And I thought, well, you know, I'll do some meditations, but I'm also going to just let it be and try this, just observing and going, well, that wasn't pleasant, but we don't need to go back there. So yeah, the mirror is definitely interesting, and it is like you're feeling triggered all the time, so it's like you're really being tested and pushed to change the way that you react to things, whether it's in your head or on Facebook or in your world or anything. And it's really about bringing down that that reaction level, just being cool with it, just acknowledge it, but don't feel like you have to really get into it. Like something's upset you and like, oh, well, that's just wrong. But do you have to engage with it? Because no, you don't have to. You know, you can't save everyone. And you've got to pick your battles, because it's just not worth it, because all you're doing is depleting your own energy. So that brings me to the third, and this one I'm calling the change. So taking the opening and the mirror lessons and combining and heightening the two. So both of these initial phases have their own difficulties. It's about opening your mind to other possibilities and hard world truths. Then it's about sorting your mental and emotional toxicities so that you come to this point, so that when you come to this point, you're not completely overwhelmed with the information you need to process. So I'm in a phase now where I've been focused on study, world happenings past and present, plus future reality and predictions, which is very helpful, especially on like the light psychic side of it, because it's more about why ascension is happening and how it's going to pull us away from this world, you know, the crap stuff in the world, and how it's going to reveal everything. And it's already happening. You look at the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and I mean, they killed the bloody guy. Like, just look on, like, seriously, just look it up. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, he did not commit suicide. And you only, like, go watch Sean Atwood's channel. He fully breaks it down. It's like, yeah, they didn't kill him. Like, I'm not sure that I believe that they whisked him out a back door and he's actually alive. I'm not sure that I would go that far, personally. But, yeah, like, that was not an accident. Whatever happened there was not an accident. So this time has also held and revealed a significant forgotten memory, which in light of the work that I've already done has not hurt me but actually helped me. It was like a realization, like the memory came up and I was like, oh, like, you know, just a lot of things sort of clicked into place about my health, how that was sort of triggered. And it's funny because I thought that it was triggered later than it actually was. It was actually earlier. Witnessing something violent is what kind of made me just sort of just like crawl and hide away from the world, because it was just too much. It was too much for a kid to witness. So, and I didn't even experience it. Like, it was another child that I witnessed being hit. And I'm not talking about a smack. Like, it was violent. So it's really helped me. It wasn't, and I think if I hadn't sorted the anger, which I had in the mirror, if I hadn't sorted that anger, which I had, in regards to people who were there for this event, having this realization would have made me more angry. But it wasn't. It was just like an aha moment, like, oh, okay, that's when it started. That, because your brain, your neurons that fire together wire together. And when it's such a traumatic thing, you can't help but your brain to change fundamentally when something like that happens. So I was like, okay, that makes complete sense. And I didn't feel, I got a little bit emotional, but it was more like, oh, this is just such validation, and it just made sense, and it completely resonated with me that, okay, it was just a part of the journey and it's all right. So the memory. Okay, I have been going over lessons from steps 1 and 2 in the Ascension Star Gate 33 and integrating them by seeing that whilst you can sort things solely from a mental, intellectual level, that's not how we fix things on this planet, or quite frankly with ourselves on any level. Now is a time for calmness that was gained from the first 2 periods of upheaval. I have learned the hard truths and seek to understand them. I have worked the anger from my past and come to a point where I see and notice being triggered and can now rein it in. I don't even need to feel triggered anymore. What's the point? It feels horrid anyway. Now is a time to begin living from the heart, to begin self-experimentation to see how I personally live from the heart. No more overthinking, no more restrictions. It's time to dismantle old thought-based, head-based programming and live from the heart. This has been a message from Lilarhixiel, my higher self, my soul. So that's all the, 37 minutes. I didn't mean for it to go this long, but a lot of other stuff came up, and I wanted to share that, and the first few steps of my ascension journey in case other people go through a similar process, whether they go through it in the same order or not. It doesn't matter. You're not doing it wrong. You can't do it wrong. But yeah, I still am in channel. Like, I'll see words or hear words and I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to talk about that. And I don't, if I see or hear a word, I'm not going to ignore it, because if I ignore it, everything just sort of shuts off and the flow stops. So, it's nearing 40 minutes, but, you just have to trust it. So yeah, I'm going to sign off. I can't remember what my outro is. Oh, that's right. Take 3 for luck. Bye.